Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very inspiring show coming right up with special guest Ann-Todhunter-Brode, and she's here today to share with us her new book, A Guide to Body Wisdom, What Your Mind Needs to Know About Your Body. Now, Ann has focused on relationships of body, mind, and spirit as it shapes the physical experience for more than 40 years. As a teacher, therapist, healer, and writer, Ann is a respected leader in the bodywork community. She has written for Health Source Magazine, Santa Barbara Independent, Huffington Post, and many more. So let's welcome to the show Ann-Todhunter-Brode.
Thank you, Marianne.
What a pleasure it is to have you here. And my goodness, your book is getting such great reviews. No wonder everyone wants their copy.
That's good to hear. I wrote it because I knew that there was a need out there, and that after all my experience working with people and how they live in their bodies and relate to their bodies and heal and think about their bodies and all those things, I knew I had something really profound to offer. So it doesn't really surprise me, but it does thrill me.
You really do have something profound to offer because you approach it in a different way than I've ever seen approach, which I really appreciate because it's easy to use, but at the same time it's pretty in-depth. And so I'd like to dive a little bit more into the inspiration behind the book. I mean, what even started you on this path where you started to, decide that you're going to dive into body wisdom?
I've worked with people and their bodies as a somatic therapist and Aston patterning body worker for over 40 years. And during that time, there were some consistent gaps in people's understanding about their body and their relationship to their body. And I devised these ways with these wonderful clients that I worked with, these ways to bring awareness to the body in really everyday practical ways. We all have the ability to be aware, but I think a lot of times we forget that our body is a sensory system, and that we have all these senses that invite us into present time and into awareness. So, that is what informed the writing of the book, and there are stories from my client base in there that expand on the wonderful process that it was, an exploration for all of us. And I learned a lot by writing the book. I'm sure that doesn't surprise anybody that's listening who's a writer. You sit down to embrace a topic, and all of a sudden you become an expert on that topic because you want to do the best job you can. You explore every single avenue that's out there for information and for other people's viewpoints, and you incorporate that in what you know, what I knew in my own personal experience working with people, and then that became this creative product that is the book.
Well, it's a fabulous book, and I really liked because you've got a body wisdom IQ test in there, and I really like that. I thought it was something that, even though it's a little in depth, it covers all the things that you would want something to cover to kind of get a sense of where you're at.
Yes, it's an invitation to the reader too to drop down and ask themselves some very personal questions about how it is that they think and live, and their personal history, and who influenced that, and what little phrases are rolling through their mind, because we all have this very personal relationship with our body. It's the most intimate relationship we have, and the internal dialogue that goes on connected to that is something we hardly ever share with anybody unless there's a reason that we need to heal, or we want to expand our consciousness, or we want to, we're hurt or upset in some way. Then we go to our body, and our body may actually demand that we pay attention. And at that point, often it's kind of surprising what internal dialogue, what negative, often negative relationship we have with our body, and it's not necessary.
Yeah. Well, it's what I found interesting, it doesn't matter if someone, maybe they are overindulging in food or maybe not getting enough sleep or not getting enough exercise, because that negative track will play in people's heads. I mean, I have it go in mine sometimes, and it's this kind of, it feels like a battle sometimes to get that to stop. But when we appreciate our bodies, and your book really helps the reader to get to a place where they can start being more present with that, I felt it made it a lot easier to make that jump.
Wonderful. That's wonderful to hear, Marianne. And, like when we shift from the understanding or the thought belief that our body is dumb or numb, and we shift over to realizing that it is incredibly intelligent, paying attention, keeping the score, and there to help us with our intuition, intimacy, communication skills, healing, anything we want to do. If we align ourselves in concert with our body, we have an amazing ally.
Have you felt that in the research that you did that maybe there was a time in the past where people were more connected connected with their bodies, and now we're kind of in this culture where there's this big disconnect? That's why your book is so popular?
Well, that's an interesting thought, and I could go many directions with that, but I think that actually what's happened is that we have evolved in consciousness to a point where that disconnect with our body is really out of balance. I don't think that evolution of consciousness was present back centuries and centuries ago when people were much more physical. They were there for survival. Now we want more than just survival. We want to explore the cosmos. We want to explore our creativity. We want to explore evolution. Our personal evolution. So I would say no. However, right now, since all of this technological screen time is available to us, people are so distracted. They are turning to their screen for a relationship rather than to their body or to, even present day, somebody else who happens to be sitting in the coffee shop. The recent cover of the New Yorker it made me smile because somebody's sitting in a coffee shop looking at a screen, and out the window it's all this action going on, and a lot of the action right in front of her, people are also looking at screens, and nobody's relating to each other.
Yeah, it feels like that's kind of the world we live in nowadays, where being detached from your screens is a little bit of an oddity, but that's really where we kind of want to go.
We are actually being challenged that if we want to continue on that evolutionary path of consciousness, we have to recognize that we are creatures of addiction, and that the screen time diverts us from perhaps some feelings that we don't want to feel, or some discomfort, or the screen time makes us feel as if we are connected. But more and more research is showing that people who spend more time on the screen, regardless of what kind of screen they're spending time on, but more time on the screen, they are less connected to other people, and they're less satisfied. They're actually more depressed.
Well, and stress is such a big part of most people's lives today. How does that affect our bodies and our relationship with body wisdom?
Oh my gosh, that's another challenge. Not only is the screen time a challenge, but what's happening around us with the natural disasters like you just went through on the East Coast, and the fires that we have on the West. People being displaced from their homes all over the planet, having access to all of that information, and then now the political discord and the Me Too movement bringing up all kinds of things for people out of their history. This is imperative that we get in touch with our body, or else the body will suffer, because the body is wired as it was, from the very beginning, to respond to the saber-toothed tiger. And if we think that our survival is at stake, and things are going to hell in a handbasket, our physiology is going to reflect that, and we're not going to be able to focus. Our systems are not going to be able to repair, and we're not going to be robustly healthy the way we want to be. So it's really, really imperative right now, particularly with all the stress that's around us, to find ways to relax. And I have a whole chapter. Once I get people in touch with, in the book, their body, and this happens with my clients too. Once we get in touch with the body and we clear a couple of basics about listening to the body when you eat, when you exercise, when you rest, and some ways to do that better, then we go right into the chapter on stress and relaxation because of what's happening in our culture and the need for people to know they have some tools to calm it down, to center and focus, to be here now. There's nothing more present than the body. And if you're not present in the body, then you're not present in the moment. And you lose so much information, so much pleasure, really, by not being present in the body.
Do you think that that's one of the reasons why we have this like obesity issue within our culture, is because people are not really being present and just kind of trying to fill a need, maybe that they're. And I'm not saying this over as a broad brush, but just in general, I could see where if people are trying to self-soothe or trying to deal with stress in a different way, not really having the tools, that overeating could be an issue.
I think so. And the book itself has some wonderful ways to help people be more conscious about their relationship to food, with food, the relationship with food. The thing about food is that we can't live without it. So you're making good choices about, quality and quantity and timing and state of mind when you're feeding yourself. I mean, just think of that as a metaphor, feeding yourself. What is it that you want to feed yourself from that place of deep loving and consideration and regard for your body? Just that one shift in consciousness will help people change like one habit at a time. I think that obesity is such a snowball and such a loaded topic that there's like so much about our culture that disregards anybody that doesn't look a certain way. And so sometimes obesity is about looking for some protection. Sometimes it's looking for, a way to manage feelings. Sometimes it's looking for a way to even find yourself. To like, by golly, it's okay if I'm overweight. Love me as I am. And the very first step to that is love yourself as you are. Start there, and start with feeding yourself with consideration and love. Every time you put anything in your mouth.
And how important is that? I mean, if we're in this place where we feel love for our body as is, and we're making these adjustments to be more present in the moment and feel love for everything our body is doing for us, the journey it's taking with us, I mean, what a great place to be in.
Yes. And you know what? Other people feel that from us, too. There's something that's very magnetically attractive about that. When you are in a place of, self-esteem and acceptance and deep regard for your body and your being, the place that you stand in the world has a presence that other people can feel. They can feel the expansiveness of that. A lot of times when we're judging ourselves, we contract, we pull away from, we distance ourselves. We become our worst judge, standing off to the side, being critical and demanding. In the body wisdom IQ test, I ask, what is your relationship with your body? Are you the boss? And is it the servant? Are you the coach? And it's, and so, like to really ask yourself, what is this relationship? Do I trust my body will respond to my decisions to live a life that is considerate of the whole picture, which includes our physical presence on this planet Earth.
Yeah, because it really is a journey, through all that.
Well, no, I love that. Could I just say something about that? Because I use that term all the time when I'm working with people. That if you happen to find yourself being negative with your body, or don't despair. Just notice how it feels. Notice how heavy or tight or distant or numb you feel when you do that, and then proceed on with the commitment to notice that it didn't feel great when you were negative with your body, and then notice how it feels in your body when you do give it positive feedback and include it in your decision making and in your love field. So it is a journey, and in that journey we take a couple of steps forward, and then part of that learning is that we go back to old behaviors and we realize, geez, that didn't feel great. That didn't give me what I wanted really. And that's a profound learning right there that's personal to each individual.
I love that.
Yeah.
What if someone is, because in your book you talk about emotional pain and fear. Is that something that can be released?
Oh yes, and if you think of emotions, like emotions, we feel emotions in our body. They might be triggered, particularly like remembering emotions. They might be triggered by a thought form, like something that happens in our mind. But generally, it's something that we hear, we see, we feel, something that impacted our body, and that we feel it in our body. We feel the impact of the different emotions, and the emotions feel different in the body. I suggest, that people, who are experiencing some legitimate anger in their lives, to actually feel where that lives in their body, what the body does, what is the sound and the gesture that absolutely represents that particular anger. And then their body, the musculature contracts in a certain way around anger that it doesn't around fear. And it's different than it is around joy or sorrow or anxiety or any of those other things. So paying attention to your body and seeing the emotions as a physical expression that actually needs to, once it's triggered, needs to move on through as energy rather than something you need to solve. Maybe once you let it move through as energy, then you know the solution. But if it's in your body, you need to give your body time, private time, because it's very personal stuff. Give your body time to express that emotion. Maybe, no one's in the house, no one's in your apartment. You storm around the apartment like Attila the Hun and chop off those heads if you feel anger. Give yourself permission to really bring it into sound and gesture, roar a bit. And then it's not going to go on forever and ever. That's what people are afraid of, that it's going to consume them, and that all they're going to be is an angry person. No. Anger moves through very quickly, just like the weather moves through the sky. And so seeing it as energetic weather moving through, after it's moved through, then you can make decisions. Then you have insights. Then you have the equanimity to find the communication you need in order to change what you need to change, or, resolve what you need to resolve.
Mm-hmm. I really like how you compare that to weather and how it will move, because I think you're right. People do feel like, if I let that loose, if I let all that anger loose that I've been keeping bottled up, it's going to be out of control, and I'm going to be out of control. And
when I'm working with somebody, sometimes I give them that sort of like what I just, that sort of template that I just gave you, like to give it the sound and gesture that exactly matches it. And I tell them that I understand that they may feel self-conscious around another person like me, even though I'm, a therapist. They may feel self-conscious, but to find some time at home where they're not going to get a reaction or impact their anybody that they're living with, and this includes pets too. If you've got pets, then you may need to take this out on a walk in the woods and scout around to make sure there aren't other hikers around. So, scout around, just like to take a quick glance, and then find that expression, because the expression is just exactly what that word implies. It's like getting it out, pressing it out, and letting it go.
Yeah, our little fur babies and friends that are here with us on this planet, they may not know what's going on if we let that expression loose at home.
Oh, yeah, and we will feel inhibited if we're worried about that. So it's I hate to say this, but sometimes like pulling off to the side of the road in your car is the greatest place to do it. Or, being in the bathroom, the shower's on, and they got a little bit of sound and everything, then you can get into some deep sobbing. I used to go down we had a wash house that was separate from our house. There's a laundry room that was in the backyard. And I would go down to the wash house and, when something was up for me, and just cut loose down there, because I knew I wasn't going to impact and feel inhibited by the people around me.
When we do this and we let go of the pains and the hurt and guilt, everything that we're feeling in regards to just whatever's happened, when we get to that point, are we able to hear our bodies at a greater level intuitively than maybe we were in the past?
Yes, think of it like content. That even if something just happened to you and you have an emotional reaction to it, chances are that reaction has a tap line into something that happened in the past. If you're carrying like all this emotional baggage, all this emotional load, it's like layers of clothing or something, or it really dulls your ability to make clear decisions or to perceive accurately what's going on around you. One of the real reinforcers for clearing and staying clear in your emotional body is the feedback that you get in relationship to other people, because somebody can like have an emotional reaction in the bank, or, like in a restaurant, or a friend or a family member can be triggered, and you're not. You can stay present with that expression, be supportive, but you're not triggered in the moment, and you don't walk away with it because you've cleared off the content for yourself.
And that's so important, because then we can really be present, not just for ourselves and the other people. We're able to be there for other people regardless of what they're going through.
Right.
That's so powerful. One of the other things, and I think I have time for one more question here, one of the other things I wanted to ask you about is mental overload. So I want you to just kind of share with us a little bit of what that looks like and how that affects our body wisdom.
Well, it's so easy to get into that place of mental overload in this culture, because we multitask, and we our culture itself, if not ourselves, but our culture is asking this of us, that we have an opinion about everything, that we tune into every single drama that's happening, in our life and in the world. We have access to that, and if we don't quiet it down, then it's going to really affect not just our physical health, but our mental health as well. We become distracted. We become anxious. We become triggered by just the smallest things, or we're not resilient anymore when we're overloaded with anything. And this is like a real invitation for us to find some time in our life where we can be quiet, where we can empty it all out, where we can stop all those word thoughts from coursing through our consciousness and just be in your body, be in your breath, be in your physical presence. You can do this sitting. You can do this, out for a walk. You can do it even, like on the journey from your home to your work. If you don't turn on the radio in the car and you're driving, or you don't, get out your iPad or, screen, your telephone and on the subway or however it is you're going to work, when you go from point A to point B, you can actually invite yourself to be in sensory awareness, to notice the light playing on the trees around you, to notice the interaction without judgment of the crowds of people, and just be the observer, and quiet the mind. Notice it's a huge challenge. We know that because the mind is busy and it wants to interpret everything. But even when you're out for a walk in the woods and you see like a wonderful deer pops up, you don't have to name it. Oh, there's a deer. You don't have to bring language to it. This is a huge assignment. But just to observe that there is this other presence with you and you're sharing the words together is a wonderful healing a moment for both the mind and the body.
What a beautiful place to start a new beginning with our bodies and, and just our life and our walk in general. And I thought your book, A Guide to Body Wisdom, is such a great book to start that journey with. So thank you for writing it. My God, it's so powerful.
Thank you, Marianne. It's wonderful to talk to you.
And before we get going, Ann, where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community?
Well, my full name is Ann-Todhunter-Brode, which is also on the book, of course, as the author. And I have a website, www.ann-todhunter-brode.com. You can also reach that same website, www.bodywisdomforlife.com. That's a really good way to find out what I'm doing and who I am. And on that website, there's a contact me feature, and I'm available if people want to contact me and ask me questions, or I will interact. That's my commitment through my book.
Yeah, well, great book. Can't suggest it highly enough. A Guide to Body Wisdom. Ann, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Totally my pleasure. Thank you so much, Marianne.
Well, thank you, Ann. It has been such a pleasure to spend this time with you and, of course, to learn not only about your book, A Guide to Body Wisdom, but also body work itself. If you'd like to reach out to Ann, you can at ann-todhunter-brode.com. We'll have the link listed below. Her book is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie bookstores. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.